Well, I'm at work, so
Yeah, you're at work. You stay off the grid, as you say. I don't want anybody to know who you are. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Phil.
should I put up a picture?
I don't think you can.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I upgrade with StreamYard.
Well, I have a thing here that says share screen. I don't know what that's
right.
about.
You can share your screen, but it becomes a totally different icon on the screen, and then you and I, the two little boxes that represent you and myself, they slide over.
Oh, all right. So they slide, huh?
Yeah, slide. It's like the electric slide.
The electric slide.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying. You remember, Phil.
Right? I do. I recall that.
All right.
Do the jerk, the Watusi.
Sure. So let's start this thing there, Phil. Why don't you mute your little microphone?
Okay. And here we are.
Yeah. Are you gonna mute or?
Hold on.
Oh,
I'm working on it.
Oh, there's a button on the screen. There you go, Phil. Thank you.
Steve Alcorn's a fine investigator.
Oh, fuck off.
This is the Fortean Slip with your host, Chris York.
I don't need porn, Chris. I have a good woman.
Listen, I have a good woman. I still watch porn.
Co-host, Steve Alcorn.
You are the top shit in Bigfootery if you get the invitation.
Oh, are you?
I've gotten the invitation 2 years in a row now, Chris.
Wow, not me.
And sometimes special guest, Matt Knapp.
It's part of growing older, maturing. Makes me more dignified and stuff. Okay, George Washington. I opted for the.
Isn't that what meth addicts say? That make me more dignified.
Taking on all things strange since 2013.
Wait a minute.
I don't know what the hell.
Are you saying that he's pregnant?
Possibly. Was he implanted by one of these teenage aliens?
Did it happen to Arnold?
This device, which comes as part of Nintendo's Quality of Life initiative, is
going to have kids running around banging their heads off bricks.
Yeah.
You're about to witness the strength of creep knowledge.
Good evening, everyone. This is The Secret Show, Episode 3, Revenge of the Phil. Good old Phil Poling joining me again, back on YouTube. How's that going, Phil?
It's coming right along.
Yeah.
I had intended on loading up another video over the weekend, and some other crap happened, and
that didn't come to fruition.
No, it didn't.
These things happen.
Yeah.
But congratulations on your triumphant return to YouTube.
Yeah, I guess there have been some others that we know of that haven't gotten their partnership back. It's kind of surprising. Yeah. I figured that they'd go through and scrub their channels, be good little boys and figure out exactly what it was that they were wanting and eliminate it so they could get their partnership back.
Right.
With me, it was a process of elimination. And
my big thing with it, I think I got hit for the Legend of Boggy Creek, and I had to strip it. I took it right down. The minute they said anything, I took it down.
Right. Yeah.
And that used to be, anyone was able to post it. There was no copyright violation for it because nobody really.
I recall was it you and Matt were talking about that? I think on one of the shows.
Yeah,
it was like
then,
all of a sudden it changed.
Yeah, they were re-releasing it in movie theaters, and they restored it. So for some reason, I don't know if the somehow it changed hands or something, but everybody had it taken down.
It's better than before. Released in its original 8mm.
That's right. Only on the big screen. And of course, you have all the regulars chiming in on that one, Lyle Blackburn and on and so forth. But yeah, Skookum cigarettes. Thank you, Will. It's been a while.
It's the Bigfoot urine that makes
that
gives it
Skookum
that flavor.
You too can smoke urine flavored cigarettes in the woods and look like an asshole
and smell like one too.
Oh God. Yeah. I recently, Phil, and I had hit you up about this because this is something that kind of I have a weird battle that goes on in my head because I've been processed by the law enforcement system. I'll say, would that be a good way to describe it?
Well, it depends on what you mean by processed. You mean brainwashed, or you mean you've been actually processed?
I've been actually processed.
I see. Okay.
Which you and I
stand this way, hold up this placard, give me your left thumb.
You and I have talked about this.
The
time that I spent in county jail. So it isn't that I have a skewed view. Listen, I understand that people have jobs, and that people in those jobs get conditioned a certain way, or they have to do things a certain way. I mean, I get that.
So far, so good.
Yeah, but a few years ago there was a movie that came out, the Stanford Prison Experiment. I don't know if you were aware of it. I know you're probably aware of the experiment,
right?
Where they took college kids and they divided them in two, and one half of them became the prisoners and the other half became the guards. And within literally, hours, the guards were already fucking with the prisoners. And it just got to the point where they had to shut the experiment down. Now, I'm not saying that was a completely accurate representation. It wasn't a representation of people being put into positions of power over other people. And just the way that whole system worked. And I had talked to you about how I had asked about my phone call. And because the instance that I went through was quote unquote domestic in nature, I was not allowed to get my phone call because I might call the quote unquote victim. And, my response to that was, well, I mean, you guys can make the call. Like, you see that it isn't her. And they were like, yeah, no, you don't get that. And you had found that kind of very interesting.
Yeah, I did. It's every jail has their own guidelines and their own rules. It could be very well that this had actually happened to this particular.
Well, no, it's actually the way they do things all over the state, in the state of Maine.
And here again, it could be that one of the jails in the state had allowed it, and it caused a problem or a lawsuit. So they just made it a matter of SOP but the thing is that it's kind of odd that they wouldn't say, here's a list of attorneys that you can call.
Right, numbers you can call. Yes,
sure, and I will dial it for you, and allow you 15 minutes or whatever.
Right, but I was nothing.
But yeah, but not being allowed, to for representation purposes. I think it's just wrong.
And I was there for 2 days. My father came down the very first day, and he was just trying to get some information. They wouldn't even. They would give him 0. That's what he told me. He was like, I came down and tried to, get some contact, get you something, whatever.
Well, is he here? Yeah, he's in the basement, the dungeon. He's got this iron mask on, and you can't talk to him.
Yeah, it was very. It's just so my experience was very strange for me all the way around. And it was really trumped up bullshit. It was really just I don't want to go into too many details about it, but it really was trumped up bullshit. And you and I have spoken about it before, but so that kind of creates, I try to keep a very rational and unbiased view when it comes to the police because of these instances that I went through, or this instance that I went through, I should say. It was only one. So, and I started looking into different things and watching a few documentaries. And one of recently I sat down with my son and I was surprised he made it through the whole fucking thing. I mean, that kid, if he does, usually just, if it's something like that, he's just like taps out really early in. So we watched the whole documentary on Serpico, like what the whole, not the Al Pacino. I've seen that movie too. But what happened with Serpico.
Yeah, not the BS version.
Right. Right. Not the one that totally overbloated. But so one of the things that I noticed was all these things that had happened. Like one thing I didn't realize was the police never called anything in when he got shot.
Correct.
And they were on scene.
Correct.
It was a civilian that called it in. And, they've never, I guess you'd say, quote unquote, proved that anybody set him up.
Correct.
But a lot of them have said that, it's pretty obvious that they delayed getting him any help.
Yeah. Even Frank Serpico said that there was no indication that he was set up that night. So,
right. It was just more or less that they let it happen.
Yeah, and I get he was supposing that maybe they figured he was dead. I mean, considering they was shot in the face and everything,
right?
But they weren't going to transport him in their own car, just because of the mess, and they don't like to clean up messes. So, it wasn't called in as an officer down. It was called in as a medical ambulance. Send them over here if somebody's been shot.
Right, because one of the things that they had said in the documentary was, and they asked all of the different cops that were in the documentary this, if it had been called in, as an officer down, how many cops would have been on scene? And they were like, everybody would have been there. Like it had been instant.
Yeah, this whole idea of Frank being set to a particular department. Well, I'm not department, but the precinct where the precinct that exists purely for the benefit of collecting what is owed them by the community. On the take. The entire precinct's on the take. This set up for that reason. I mean, that's kind of what it was made out to be. And here, old Frank Serpico is, the lone wolf type of thing. That's crap.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of truth to the story too.
Well, that's because of to every myth there is some truth.
Yeah. Well, and then you flash forward to another documentary that I had watched, and I've mentioned it to you that you should check it out, which is the 7-5. which is about what went down in the 75th precinct. And those cops were shaking people down, doing breaking and entering and stealing money, delivering people to drug dealers, and that's all on record.
Yeah, it's when you're segregated. Each one of those bureaus have their own, their own gig, and when you're segregated, and you allow certain people in and you flush certain people out, this is the kind of crap that can happen. And
right, and two, you look at how they did things back then, and I mean, I'm not trying to say it was right, or because obviously I don't think police corruption is good at all. But you look at what they were paying these guys at the time to do, and where a lot of them, they would wind up, when they would take the photo of them, when they would start on the force, the captain would look at him and be like, show that picture to your wife because she's never going to see it like that again. Because of what the job would do to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Back in New York City in the 70s and early 80s, it just chewed men up and spit them out. And some of that,
it takes stress to a whole new level. So many people wash out before the first year's over. I just saying, man, this is not what I signed up for. I came in with the best intentions.
And that's what you hear a lot too, Phil. I came in with the best intentions, but it just then I realized I was just it's a job.
No, but you're getting it not just, you're getting it from the bad guys, you're getting it from the community, and you're getting it from your own supervisors.
Yeah.
You get it from, you can't do anything right. And when you feel you have, then someone's not going to like it.
Right.
And that's the kind of crap you have to deal with all the time. The public sees you as some kind of boogeyman.
Yeah. And the other thing, and I've talked to you about this before too, is that I do understand it and I don't understand it. I'm so middle of the road on this, and it's hard. The thin blue line with police officers. It's like when you guys, not you in particular, Phil, you've retired. I mean, but when they support one another, no matter what, and you have instances where there's obviously some wrongdoing that's gone on, and yet they support them anyway. That's where the public is like, they get scared, or the public starts to lose trust because of that. And and then I look at it on the converse side, where the cops are like, listen, I'm out there on the road with these guys. Like, they could be the difference between life and death for me.
Yeah, but a lot of the job, this is something, that thin blue line is not something that I've experienced. I've experienced guys who, officers who will throw any other officer under the bus for a political gain. So they're constantly watching, and they're constantly making mental notes. So it's like, yeah, there's an idea of camaraderie because we have no one else to rely on. It's always been us being the cops and them being everyone else.
Right.
But then comes the added element where you've got supervisors and or leaders who encourage the snitching. And I say snitching is a bad word, but that they encourage officers to police themselves. And if you're one of the gang that keeps an eye and ear open and reports, well, gee, the chief really loves you for that,
Yeah.
And fuck the other guy, even though maybe what went on wasn't that important anyway.
Yeah.
But it sure creates a problem.
Yeah, and when you're trying to have that, that type of, I guess you could say, environment for guys, it's just not good.
No.
It just creates some bad situations because I used to think that like women gossip bad, but fucking men, men can be.
Oh yeah, I was in a department where
worse.
they were, the whole department was divided up into teams. Not
to say that women aren't aren't police officers. Obviously, yes, but
yeah.
I'm assuming in your experience, it was far more male dominated.
Yeah, although the first department I worked for, right before I left, we did have our very first female officer.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, I'll take that back. There was another one like 5 years prior, but she washed out real quick.
But yeah, and that was a slow process, to where we are today. But still, this is obviously it crosses sex. I mentioned that simply because in your experience, you were with a bunch of guys for the most part.
Yeah,
yeah, and I've been in those types of environments, and they can be really fucking hairy.
Oh yeah, well yeah, the good old boy syndrome.
Oh yeah.
So.
But yeah,
and then you have to deal with who are the old timers and who are the new bucks,
yeah,
all that crap.
Those proby type situation. It becomes
greeners.
It almost becomes like fucking
rookies.
Frat house bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's what it is. With guns.
Yeah, with guns and radios. And now tasers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, those fun fucking things. But so one of the more recent things that I documentaries I had looked into that I think I had shot your way. I told you to look into it. Was Crime and Punishment. And that is the story of the New York cops trying to fight against the quotas that supposedly no longer exist, but there's a lot of people
right.
that they still
but do.
Yeah.
But do.
Yeah. But do. It feels like, no, Chris, they fucking do.
The fucking ain't right, they do.
But
and of course, when I first started, that was one of the big jokes, because exactly what you're talking about. And I remember this one guy, Dave, who was my corporal, my trainer. And he says, I stopped people and they asked me, hey, you're trying to get your quota today. And you know what I tell them? I tell them, we don't have a quota. The chief says I can ride as many as I want. And it was kind of like the inside joke, right? And,
right.
But they do have a quota because, you spend so many hours on the road. And if you don't hand in a certain amount of citations and warnings, it just shows them you're not really doing your job.
Right.
Because a lot of your job is traffic enforcement. Well, look at me, traffic enforcement. I'm not a big. There's a lot of things wrong with the traffic enforcement. Mentality that police officers have.
And I think and I think you'll agree with me on this. I think it's boiled down to they're glorified revenue collectors at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, it's there's several reasons why cops issue citations. One, somebody really fucked up. Okay, that's number one. Number two, they broke the law to, let's say, even a small degree, and you're kind of in competition with the other guys on the force to see who can have more rocks in the box at the end of the shift or the end of the pay period.
Right.
and that kind of spurs on some camaraderie. Yeah, how many did you get today? Yeah, which is not a good reason for issuing a citation.
Right.
You issue citations for traffic safety reasons. Not and then you got like municipal judges, and they're like, what do you cite? He cited me for 4 miles over the posted. Well, 1 mile over the posted speed limit is a violation.
Yeah, and we all know that's horseshit.
It's horseshit.
We all know it's horseshit.
Sunny day, dry road, nobody on the road. I'm doing 4 over, and you're going to give me a ticket. Yeah, that's right, buddy. That's right. Because it's the law.
That's right.
I'm
It's
like,
the
holy
law,
shit.
Man.
See, it's I don't like the mentality where cops separate the law from justice. There's got to be a reason behind the law, and you need to look for the reason behind the law and enforce that.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
It's there as a tool. It's there as a tool, not as a give all, take all.
Right.
And then there's municipalities, let's say smaller police departments, who rely on the revenue, and yet that's where the speed trap thing comes in. Yeah. Hey, we're 10 over. You get a ticket. There you go.
Yep. Yeah. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yep, that's it.
Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's what they are.
And
I hate to say it, but that's what they are.
And the fines that are being imposed these days.
Yeah, and the here's the other side of it. And they're doing a thankless fucking job.
Well, true.
Because at this point, I can remember when I was younger, like the cop that was in my neighborhood, we all knew him.
Mm-hmm.
Decent enough guy. We all knew him. He all knew us. There were cops back then that if they caught you fucking drinking and driving, if it was, you weren't like doing it all the fucking time, blatantly, but you were driving home one night, just get the fuck home. Like there used to be a different type of mentality, and then the rules got tightened around everybody. Is how I'm looking at it with a lot of these things, because you don't generally see that much anymore. I don't think, personally.
Well, that's because it's come to the point where they've had the policy has always been the officer's discretion,
right?
And it's being drilled into the younger generation who become police officers. Why? Because they don't realize it. They don't realize they have a choice. They don't think that we can give this guy a break. Yeah,
no, we just gotta give him a ticket, or we gotta take him to jail.
It's programmed. They go to police academy. It's programmed. It's in their character makeup at the time that they take that psych exam,
right?
And what the department is looking for, and how the psych exam is set up, and what the psychiatrist keys in on. Now, it used to be public service. I mean, if you want to do a good job, you want to serve the public the best way you can, blah blah blah. That was the old days. That's when I joined up.
Right.
And then, 10 years later, all of a sudden, it's we need the guys that are that won't take shit, that are macho, that are bullies. The heavy hitters. Because crime is it's gaining on us, and so society says that we need to do this. So we're gonna show up on the short end. I had a woman when I was a shift commander one time, who brought her kid in. And this kid was 7 maybe, and she says, okay, whatever his name is, wait outside. And she comes in and she's like, he did this to our neighbor's plant or whatever, fence, whatever the hell it was. And I want you to talk to him. And I says, well, I'll be more than happy to talk to him. What's the deal? Well, I want you to scare him and let him know that shit like that could land his butt in jail. I was really pissed. I said, lady, for years, we've been trying to teach these kids that when they need someone to go to for help, we're the people they go to for help when they really seriously need it. We're their buddies, we're their friends, they can trust us. And you want me to go out there and turn into the boogeyman for this kid.
Right.
I says, I'm not going to do it. But I did take a little badge out there. It says, I understand you got into a little trouble. If you promise not to do it again, you could be a junior police officer. And I hand him the little police badge sticker.
Right.
You know, that's the way to handle it.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, my goodness. Yeah.
And it's not just, like I said, I struggle with it to try and have an unbiased, opinion on the whole thing. And I get it that they're human beings, obviously. But when it comes to when I'd watched this documentary, The Crime and Punishment, I was like, Jesus, like it gets to the point where some of these police officers are getting fucking harassed because they're not stepping in line with how many citations they should be making every month, how many calls they should be getting.
Right.
And then they get these shit positions. There was this one guy in the documentary, he was documenting it like with a body camera, his own, that they were sticking him on a street corner and they wouldn't let him leave it. So he couldn't get any citations or any callers. Like, unless something happened right there, because he wasn't allowed to leave. It was, and I was just like, I was blown away by this. I'm like, seriously? Like, the mentality now is like, it's, the bottom line, whereas it used to be like, let's just, enforce the law like it should be enforced.
Right. Well,
like,
but if
somebody's breaking the law, then yeah, let's take care of that. But if it, like you were saying, if you're going 4 miles over, it's a nice sunny day, nobody else is on the road, dude, fucking take a pill.
Yeah, it's you don't play, the other reindeer games. They're gonna try to push you out any way they can. The street corner routine's one way to do it. Make him so frustrated. And then come down on him when he doesn't do his job, supposedly. It's it's a form of harassment. Really, it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I've gotten warnings from the police before. I've been let go. Yeah, just I got pulled over one time with a bad sticker. We have to have inspection stickers in the state of Maine. And, the police officer said to me, he's like, listen, just come down, go get it fixed, get your sticker. By the end of the week, I'll tear it up. And I did. He did. I mean, so I understand, I obviously understand that they're people and they're, as with anything, there's shitty people amongst people.
Yep.
You're going to find that.
Mm-hmm. And it's everywhere.
Right. But like what you were saying, they kind of zeroed in on a certain type of personality.
Correct.
For police. And that has kind of soured it in the taste of everybody's mouth, I think. I think that's the thing that we see. And we're like, why? Why would we do this? But again, society's to blame for it too. Because society has these knee-jerk fucking reactions, and then they expect the police to fix it.
That's exactly what it is. And you see society passing certain laws that are almost impossible to enforce. And you can understand the frustration from the standpoint of a police officer when he has to, violate someone, let's say, through a citation or what have you. And he himself doesn't even believe it's you know, it's like, you know, and the chief says, hey, you got to go out. This is what we're doing. We're doing this, this concentration on this one area. You will do this. You will do that. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah, but chief says I got to do it. So
yeah,
bing, bang.
And again, it's what people need to understand too, is that it's a job for these people. They're, you know, and that's what makes it even harder, I think, for people to understand. But you have to look at it that way. You have to look at it like these people, they've got a boss just like you. They got to deal with bullshit just like you do. And so is it all the people, or
not just from the boss, but from the courts too?
Right. So
the old revolving door syndrome.
Exactly. And
that isn't frustrating as hell.
Ugh, I've been through it. It's not fun.
But, I remember when I was doing corrections, and there was a guy who walking out the gate one night with him, and shut they unlocked the gate. We walked through. They shut the gate, and then all of a sudden he goes through these movements, like he's taking off something, but there's nothing there. It's just his hands doing this thing, and then he takes it, and then he throws something. I said, what the hell are you doing? He says, I'm taking off my work jacket, throwing it away, leaving it here. You know, it was like a mental thing, a mental exercise to leave his work at work.
You kind of have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
especially for this guy.
You bring that shit home.
Yeah, it got pretty weird.
You know, and for all of the negativity that I feel towards how I was treated, I also understand it. I mean, these people have to deal with the worst of the worst day in and day out.
It used to be, and it'll go back several decades, and it used to be that the public used to, even if they feared their local constabulary, they at least respected them to the point where they wouldn't fuck up, or they would not intentionally get in the guy's face. It doesn't happen anymore. There used to be a time when sue the city for something a cop did. They didn't have lawsuits back in the 1950s. You dealt with it. You know, you sucked it up. You dealt with it the way you deal with it on your own. But nowadays, the cop turns around in a crowded elevator and farts, and that's a lawsuit coming.
Yeah, and but I think that is more to the point that we're a sue happy society.
We've become that, yes.
Yeah, and that points to who we are as a society. You know, and that's just a fucking problem. We're just
and granted, not just for cops. I mean, you work at a restaurant and get sued.
Yeah, we're just shitty people all the way around. Right. You know, I just, but you know, with the way that these people are being portrayed now, it just, I'd rather have an unbiased view of things and present an unbiased view of things when it comes to this than, you know, be like, they're just all a bunch of fucking criminal bastards. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not blanket statement like that anyway. But you know, I won't lie to people. When I got chewed up by that system, when I got processed by that system, I came out feeling totally different about things. Like, oh, wow.
For dead in Ohio.
Dude, it was a difference. It was different.
Yeah.
I mean, realize, I mean, I was in a cell with like fucking like real criminals.
Yeah.
Real motherfuckers. And here's little old me. I'm like, I've gotten like a speeding ticket before. What are you in for? I was driving with like all kinds of heroin.
Yeah. Don't get me started on drug laws.
But
you know, it's more people are in prison for, you know, it's so this really just, it's a pet peeve. You know, you got a guy.
Well, okay. Well, this goes to Phil, is the money behind the prison system.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
I
understand why it's pet peeve. It is for me too.
It's, you know, guy murders somebody, makes a deal with the DA, he gets 10 years. Guy found with some white stuff in his pocket gets 10 years.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me, please?
If you got a gram of white stuff in your pocket,
explain it to me.
And to anybody who understands, I mean, especially with like cocaine stuff like that, or you know, listen, I understand there's a heroin problem going on right now, but I still am of the school, fucking legalize it all.
You know, I feel the same way.
Let the fucking chips fall where they may.
You got it. Let them blow their minds out with the shit and get rid of them.
I mean, listen, I'm not saying it that way. I mean, I'm not that cynical. I'm sorry.
I am.
I understand that you are. But I think that the money should be put in, all the money of the drug war should be put into fucking treatment.
Well, which brings up another point that I like is all of a sudden all the mental hospitals are gone.
Yeah.
I mean, all the treatments on the street. I've seen it happen over the last 40 years. It's like the guy who attacked me, who was schizophrenic. He was put in the Oregon State Hospital in Salem for like 2 weeks for observation. They gave him some meds, kicked him loose.
Some say he hunts rabbits with ferrets.
Yeah, right. No, this guy, and you know, it's like they go in, they talk to the guys, they give them some drugs they hope they're going to take. They kick him out the door to attack another cop or attack another person.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was a danger to himself and others, but yet we're going to put him right back into society.
Yeah. I think I told you recently the story about that woman in New Hampshire. She was because of this whole situation with money and funding for the mental hospital, she was just released one day with nowhere to go. Nothing on her. I think they gave her enough for like a bus ticket.
Mm-hmm.
She traveled somewhere. Excuse me, I can't remember exactly where it was. I've driven by it many times. She found this abandoned house, basically, that this brother and sister owned because they were left it by their parents, but they weren't doing anything with it. And so she got there like when it was warm out, and there were apples, and she was picking the apples and eating the apples, but she didn't dare to talk to anybody. She secluded herself. She would only go out at night. And she was literally feet from people, and she wound up dying in the house of starvation over the winter. And because she was a mental patient that was just let go into the world. And there were people across the street, but she didn't dare to go speak to them.
There you go.
You know, and that is a serious problem in our country right now. Serious problem. With these, you know, people who have mental health problems should be able to get treatment and should be able to have a place to be, not just fucking pushed out onto the fucking street.
Right.
Like that's a problem. I don't see why we do that. I don't understand.
Yeah, we don't have the funds or the buildings or infrastructure to house them. You know, it's basically just offices, and they call them treatment offices. Mm-hmm. And they treat them, at least momentarily, give them a Band-Aid and kick them out the door.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help you or me or them.
Yeah, it's just, it's sad. When I watched that documentary, it was sad. like because she kept a diary, which was she was intelligent, an intelligent woman. She was just mentally ill, and she documented every day. And she wound up dying there was a vent that went down to the furnace, and she was able to keep warm because there was a pilot light that was still on that was releasing warm air up through the vent. And she died over the vent. That was a fucking sad story. But anyway, we brought that down, Phil. Before it was cowboys, fucking police, fucking corruption at first with me, and then you fucking beat me down saying no, that shit doesn't kind of happen all that way.
And OK Corral and who was really there.
But that shit that the shit that happened in New York in the 80s, there was some serious police corruption that went down.
Oh, sure. I mean, but that goes back. I mean, look at Chicago. Look at
yeah.
Look at Los Angeles in the 40s. I mean,
absolutely.
If the chief wasn't on Bugsy Siegel's payroll, after Bugsy Siegel got it, he went on to Mickey Cohen's payroll.
Oh.
Yeah, till he got kicked out, and then another chief formed that gang squad.
Yeah,
and those guys, it was total mayhem. These guys operated outside the law. They were like vigilantes with a badge.
Mm-hmm.
They grab a thug that came in off the train from Chicago, and they drag him up Mulholland Drive. They throw him off Mulholland Drive.
Yeah,
and now you get to go home if you live. That's that kind of crap.
Yeah, and that shit's scary for people.
Yeah,
but again, this is one of those things where the cops could do a million good things,
but just that one guy.
But those bad things just fucking resonate with people.
Yeah, you could have a whole department full of saints, and all you need is one rogue asshole to ruin it for everybody.
Yeah.
They should have put that rogue asshole out on a street corner. Yeah.
Maybe they'll solve that problem.
We're taking them up Mulholland Drive.
But I mean, it does, beg the whole, or make me realize that it's the system that needs to be reformed, because you're going to have shitty people no matter what. Mm-hmm. But it's the system that needs to be fixed, as with a lot of other things. But I did have issues, like how it is. It's that knee-jerk reaction. It's very typical in human beings that they have a knee-jerk reaction when something happens to them,
right.
But me being a rational person, I did have that at first, but at the same time, as time went on away from it, I was like, I need to understand this. And that's one of the reasons why I've talked to you about it quite a bit. Behind the scenes, not on the show like this, but because I wanted to understand it. Because I understand that these are people, these are human fucking beings, but why does this fucking shit happen? Why, do they, why do you get these situations where you have these coerced confessions?
Well, it starts with the attorney that files the restraining order, and then it goes to, it's like you have to understand there are so many different elements to the whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's nice to say these guys wouldn't let me have a phone call. I want to kill these son of a bitches one of these days, without realizing. Well, what about the cop that brought you there? What about the?
Well, no, I didn't have the feeling of I want them to fucking. I didn't.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying I'm just for an example. You have this feeling that you
right.
You've been wronged, and
there were all kinds of pieces in the machine that got me to there.
Right.
There was the 2 officers that arrested me at the house, who accused my parents, by the way, of trying to hide me when I was just literally sleeping upstairs. They didn't know it. They thought I was gone. Yeah. So, like, when I woke up and came downstairs, they're like, "Oh shit, you're fucking here." I was like, yeah, I've been sleeping upstairs. And they're like, the cops were here for you. And I'm like, so I called them. I'm like, yeah, come on back. You know, so there's those two cops that arrested me. And then there's the cop that I met at the jail, you know, who wanted my statement. Who was like, yeah, you just give me a statement, you'll go home. Little did I know, Phil.
Yep. Son, you need to keep your mouth shut.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's so many pieces in that puzzle. And that's done on purpose too.
Mm-hmm. A lot of it has to do with money.
Yeah.
You have the district attorney that's got a crappy budget. He's going to get with the defense attorney, and they're going to make a deal. Let's make a deal time.
I was very lucky in that all I did was I served 2 days. When I went into court, I said because all I had was the public defender. I said to him, dude, I've never been in any trouble whatsoever. I've never gotten so much as a speeding ticket. You know, I don't have any drug charges in my past. I don't have anything, nothing
yet.
Yet. And I'm like, and this was a text message that I didn't threaten anybody with physical harm whatsoever. And it came back like I didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't have court costs. I didn't have anything. I was just let go. And I just it just kind of, you know, like I said, it was one of those things where it was like it left a sour taste in my mouth, but I wanted to understand it, you know, because I'm not so stupid or ignorant to believe, you know, that it's all the bad. I'm not that stupid.
Well, there is a pecking order. When you're on a budget, you know, it's like, this isn't worth prosecuting, so let the guy go.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I was so fucking elated because on the way there, like the cop in the bus on the way there, he's like, if you're in here for a domestic issue and they offer you probation or time, you take the time. And I'm like, fuck me. He's like, because you know that if you just fuck up once on probation, it's gonna be worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a system. It's a system, and you know, as with any system, it can be fixed. You know, it can be fixed. There can be changes made to it, but it's made up of people, and people fuck up, and that's all there is to it. You know,
everyone has to have their little fingers and their little tiny piece of the pie.
Yeah.
And now we've got a pie so damn big, no one can make heads or tails of it.
Yeah.
Laws change from one city to another, one county to another, one state to another.
And by and large, you know, I truly believe that, you know, the police that are out there, they're good people.
For the most part.
I believe that, you know, and a lot of it is just the job that they're doing. You know, it's a shit job.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does affect a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, when you're gonna walk up to a car and you don't know what you're walking up to every fucking time.
Exactly.
I can imagine that fucking takes a toll on you. And it would me. But
that's the second worst scenario for loss of life to a police officer.
Yeah.
The first is domestic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad, you know, that's, you know, and it's too bad. Here's like the, you know, the brass tacks, the whole fucking thing, you know, not to use that old fucking tired cliche, but it's too bad that's what it fucking does to these guys every day. It's just too fucking bad, and it's too bad that we can't be just fucking decent enough people so that shit doesn't have to happen to people. Like, it's too bad that there's shitty people out there who will just fucking turn around and shoot somebody who's pulling them over for speeding.
It's
whatever.
It's the demon rum. That's what it is.
That's what it is. Phil, is
Demon
goddamn.
rum.
It's that fucking alcohol.
You gotta do something about that alcohol.
Turns people into Satan.
Dude.
On that note, Phil, thanks for discussing this with me tonight. I mean, there's a lot of things that you talked about tonight that, you know, I hadn't thought about. You know, and like I said, this is something that I've wanted to understand, you know, and that's why I watch these fucking documentaries and, you know, just like shove all this shit down my own fucking throat. Cause being that I went through it, I kind of, and, you know, and very lightly, like I didn't go to prison or anything, you know.
Get yourself some Joseph Wambaugh. Read the Blue Knight.
The Blue Knight?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I read the Shawshank Redemption. Does that count?
Yeah, it counts.
I read that as a teenager, by the way, and loved it. And I was so surprised because I was like, I didn't like reading any of the stuff that Stephen King wrote that wasn't horror, but that Shawshank Redemption, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption is the name of the actual story. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But on that note, Phil.
Okay, yeah.
This has been the Fortean Slip, episode 93, The Secret Show, episode 3, The Revenge of the Phil. And by that, I mean revenge on YouTube. I'm not trying to say Phil's up here trying to fucking shit on police officers. For any of you out there, which I think it's quite obvious he didn't. If you like this shit, hit that little thumbs up button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. Check out, as always, our good friend Matt Knapp at youtube.com/bigfootcrossroads encrypted tales. You can go over and check out new breakdowns at youtube.com/parabreakdown. And Phil will make money. Cha-ching, cha-ching. That's how Phil revenue collects. You can check out the Fortean Slip on anchor.fm/the Fortean Slip. That's where the RSS feed is for the audio only podcast. And Bigfootin' with Keith and Colin on Facebook. That's Richard's little comic strip group. Sometimes I like his comic strip. Sometimes I don't. I'm flip-floppy with it. Flip-floppy. But I support him. And check out our good friend Dred Funn at dredfunn.com and youtube.com/Dred Funn. Phil, it's been fun.
Okay.
Do you want to send us off, Phil?
See ya.